listening to the GreenSkull podcast,
A podcast for Fife fans, music artists, and creatives alike. Hey, what's up, guys? Before we start the show, just wanted to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Natural Selection, a brand that's not just about clothing, but a lifestyle. I'm thrilled to introduce the trendsetters of Coachella Valley streetwear, Natural Selection. Natural Selection is all about quality and uniqueness. Their designs are a fusion of street culture and the vibrant energy of the Coachella Valley. Hey, yo, what's good? It's the GreenSkull podcast. I'm your host, MCKG, aka DJ GreenSkull, and today with Josiah with Avenida Music.
Yeah.
What's
Thanks for
up,
having
man?
me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Dude, first of all, thank you for giving us a tour
Yeah.
of your venue. Like, we came to a couple shows before, and seeing Lazuli Bones
Yeah.
and just the crowd, it was sick, man. And seeing the back also, I appreciate you showing us that, because I just thought we were just gonna do like the front,
Yeah.
to see the stage and stuff. But thank you, man.
No, yeah. The
This
building
whole thing is really cool.
It's a really big, really old building, and I think people like seeing behind the curtain. There's
Yeah.
not that much there yet, but I like to give the full view of what we're trying to do. So thanks for coming
Hell yeah.
by.
So you had talked about it a little bit while we were doing the tour, but can you give us some background on the building and the reason why you guys came to downtown Indio?
Yeah. So some of the musicians in Indio remember. So my brothers and I form Avenida Music alongside Sean, our partner. He's off screen; nobody can see him. But we started off in 2014 as like a cover band. Just wanted to play music for fun. Started playing at the local bars and stuff, and then eventually took it seriously. And we said we really want to make this a thing that provides for our families, makes money. We want to do this full time if we can. So in 2018, we really started trying to figure out how we could make money. And one of the ways was we rented. There's a unit next door. A buddy of mine was part of a nonprofit, and we asked if we could sublease from them. So that was kind of like the beta version of what we have here, and we needed a place to store all of our gear. We needed a place to rehearse because it didn't fit in our garages anymore, and we were trying to be more professional, and so we were like, all right, we'll move in here. We started rehearsing here. Other bands started asking if they could rehearse there, and so we're like, oh, maybe we make money off of this. We started testing it as like a venue, and people would just show up, and they're like, hey, we're gonna go just jam out. If you guys want to show up, we'll throw a little show here. And we realized that there was like a desire for music in downtown. We've been here, we've grown up here. I grew up off of Jackson Street. I've lived here my whole life, probably besides college. It's been, I don't know, 25 years plus living here in Indio. Coming down to Yellow Mart, being part of the community or lack thereof, just knowing that there's nothing here except for Yellow Mart.
I get you.
So that was, we eventually, frankly, got kicked out. It was a little bit rough because we were like, hey, we don't have anywhere to go. They needed their space back, and so we had 30 days. All of our stuff was sitting in storage, and this building was right next to us. And we would always walk by. We'd kind of take a look in. And one day we saw a poster in the window that said, for lease, inquire here. Just shot him an email. The building is owned by the city of Indio. So from what I understand, at some point prior to 2018, this is probably about 10 years plus, the city started purchasing properties in the downtown in order to kind of renovate and kind of get things going again. And they used special types of federal bonds, which made it so that there's a lot of rules surrounding what you can and can't use them for. So they had a very specific use case that they wanted for this, for this venue. So we approached them and we said, hey, we used to do these shows down here, the ones that you wanted us to shut down. They're like, we want to do this in a legitimate fashion. We have a business plan for you. And so they told us, there's a couple other people that are looking at the building, but if you can give us a business plan, we'll take you seriously. So we did. We turned it around that week, had a meeting with them, and they liked the idea. So we had to make some tweaks. The reason we have to do coffee is because they wanted 16-hour foot traffic, morning and evening. They didn't want just a nighttime place. They're like, we need people walking into downtown, a place for locals to congregate. So that's where we came up with the idea of throwing coffee in here. Sean happened to work at Starbucks, and then the goal was always, hey, we're musicians, we want to do cool live shows, and we knew that, one, all the musicians in town told us, we need more places to play. We could see it with our eyes, but as soon as we opened up the spot next door, it just became really apparent that there aren't enough places to play, especially if you're just getting started. And the second part to that was that, like, people will pay. They'll come down, they'll show up, they'll support their friends and family. This is a growing city, it's a young city, and so that's how it all kind of started, and just a lot in between. But that's the basic gist of how we ended up with this place.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds like a, started from the bottom. Now we're here story, like literally.
You can ask my parents or our parents. Our first rehearsal space was in their garage. We were all in our early 20s, and so we would practice till 1 or 2 in the morning, and the garage is literally right next to where my parents' room was.
Damn.
And I was like, I would have kicked us out. I wouldn't have let us play here. Why did you guys let us rehearse in the garage? And they're like, well, we knew you guys were working really hard, and it was helping you form a better friendship with your brothers, and but we were playing in mom's garage, and it's like it takes a long time, but that was, sometimes you need the family to support your dreams. So
that's love, though,
Yeah.
I mean, damn, till 1 a.m, sheesh.
Yeah, that was rough. It
But
was
man, what's the story behind the name of your venue?
Yeah, so it starts with the name of our band. We had the hardest time deciding on the name for a band. I think most bands go through this. And so we came up with lists of dumb names. We didn't know what kind of music we wanted to do. We would just throw stuff out there. And at the time, we were rehearsing at a friend's house over in Cathedral City, and everything over there is Avenida something, and we were sitting on a street, and it was Avenida La Paz. And we're like, well, what about Avenida La Paz? Just kind of a stupid, just like, oh, let's take a street sign. And they're like, well, just cut off the back half. It's just Avenida. And we're like, all right, that'll be a placeholder name until we figure out a real name. And then it's been 10 years, and we haven't come up with a real name. So that was the name of the band. And so we realized that the name Avenida has some cultural connotation to how people view the band. I think I told you guys earlier, they ask if we do mariachi music all the time, or they're like, oh, do you do norteño music? And I'm like, no, it doesn't really connect with the type of music we do. So we knew that we wanted to take it, and the venue had to be kind of accessible to the general public, especially our target demo. So Little Street is just Avenida in English. It's just the Little Street Music Hall. We were going to call it Avenida Music Hall or Avenida, Music, whatever. We didn't know, but Little Street Music Hall, we felt like that rolled really well. It is kind of on a little street. It's kind of in the downtown. Definitely. So we're like, hey, that fits well. So,
dude, that's great, man.
Yeah.
I like the name because it actually stood out when you guys first started promoting it,
nice.
On Instagram. And I think you guys, when I first heard of the venue, you guys were promoting it, and I think Angel shared it on Instagram.
Okay.
And it was you guys were talking about a green room on the roof or something, something like that.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that I saw, and I was like, that's sick.
Yeah, that's still one of the goals. I would love to have a green room upstairs. There's some lighting needs. The building was built in 1964, so everything needs to be every time you move into a new area of the building, you got to do new wiring and new lighting, and so
64.
I would absolutely love to have a super cool green room upstairs, and especially for comedians and traveling bands and stuff. It feels good to have a space where you feel like a real performer. But yeah, that's a goal. That's one of those long-term goals that we want to.
Well, man, it's already well established, and I can't wait to see where it goes as
Yeah.
time goes, because I know everything progresses over time,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to see what it's gonna look like in like 5 years
Oh,
or
yeah.
10
no.
years or
Absolutely. That's,
like along the way.
I mean, sometimes we feel like we're kind of stuck in the mud because we've been working on this for so long. Like, we
Yeah.
started the project in 2021. So we're like almost 4 years into it. But then we remember, like, for most people, they didn't even walk through the doors until October of 2023. So we're not even a year old. And so we're like, okay, well, this is what we did in 7 months, 8 months. Like, yeah, in 5 years, like, we big plans. Like, you can see it. You can see what's happening in the downtown and what's happening in
Yeah.
the valley, and we want to be part of it. So
No, yeah, man, I can see the progression, like from because like as a local artist myself, just looking at where we can actually perform.
yeah,
Because I'm mainly in hip hop, so
Yeah.
like, where can hip hop artists perform? Primarily, it's usually like a dive bar, or if any, because
Yeah.
sometimes there's like fights, and then they don't want hip hop no more.
yeah,
But then seeing Angel open his backyard
Yeah,
to like
well,
Desert
yeah.
Underground and blowing that up, and then this blowing up, and then also the stage down the street.
Music House Indio. You've got the amphitheater. That's
Dude,
going up with
everything.
the
I
city.
feel like everything's coming together.
Yeah.
Like, it's just alignment right now.
Right behind us, off of Oasis Street, you've also got Adrian with Hermano Flower Shop. He's starting up Rosemary Hi-Fi Listening Room. So it's going to be like a bar plus high fidelity vinyl listening room. So you're going to
Sick.
have 1, 2, Music House Indio, probably the guys next to them, the amphitheater. You can have like 5 venues on the same street, which is exactly what you want, because we all cater to somebody a little bit different. So
Oh yeah, and it definitely brings like all the foot traffic, especially like
Yeah.
every Fridays.
Yeah.
They do like the vendors
Truck
right
Fridays,
here.
yeah.
Food Truck Fridays.
those, they started off pretty rough, honestly, and over the past probably 3 months, they've really picked up steam. And yeah, they're packing out. You're seeing hundreds of people now. It's hard to park in the downtown. I was like, when did this happen? I was like, this
That's
is
a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good problem, but
Yeah.
I was like, I used to be able to pull right up to the building. So
Sheesh, yeah, dude, things are changing.
yeah,
What do you love most about owning and running a music venue?
yeah. I'm a musician. The thing that I love the most is that all of the things that I wanted as a musician, I now have the power to say, oh, we can do that. All of the like
That's awesome.
crappy places that we ever played, I'm like, let's not do that. Getting shoved into like broom closets instead of green rooms, and not having, like, showing up and not having like professional equipment, no snacks or free waters, like just all the little stuff that you're like, hey, I put a lot of time and effort into my show. I'm coming out to support your venue. It would be nice if you had some water bottles for us. Just the basics. Like, my goal is, we talk about it all the time. We want to set the standard from the perspective of a musician. Like, this should be the best place in the Coachella Valley for musicians to play. When they have to ask, like, where would you prefer to play across the valley? We want it to be automatic. Like, Little Street Music Hall, they treat us right there. When we're all done, we'll have the green room set up. We're going to have just a really easy load in, professional staff. We're going to be super courteous. We're going to try and anticipate all the needs of the people. We're going to try and make it so that your show is as impactful as possible on the marketing front. Before you even get through the door, that we're sharing your stuff, that we're blowing you up, that you get paid well. It's super important that musicians shouldn't walk away feeling like, where'd all the money go? Like,
Yeah.
who took that cash? And so we have the power to do that. And I feel like once you have an example, then that sets a standard that other people can then either choose to, like, we're not going to follow it, it's fine, but you're going to be a subpar product if somebody else is doing it better than you. So I really want to, like, set the standard for other venues in town.
Man, that's awesome, bro. I mean, coming to one of your shows with Lazuli Bones and the
Yeah.
other bands that were here, a couple of things that I liked
Yeah.
once I came through is, like, one, there's windows, huge windows,
Yeah,
so you can
yeah.
see what's happening. And then 2, the restroom.
Yeah.
Because, most venues, most bars, horrible restrooms.
Dude.
So the restroom was great. And then obviously, like, you could buy stuff
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Because I know you had mentioned during the tour, like, you guys are going to start food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that is a thing, because I do remember, like, being here and I overheard somebody, oh, I'm hungry, let's go eat.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, damn, if they did have food, that'd be crazy.
It's everything. So like the restroom is a huge sticking point for us because it was like the bane of our existence when we first got open. Like every single week, somebody would flush like a wad of paper towels down there.
Oh my god!
And we refurbished all of the pipes inside the building, all the sewage lines, all the plumbing. But as soon as you got outside the building, like in the parking lot, 10 feet out, there was breakages, like there were like 7 or 8 breakages.
Damn.
And so we were like, man, that ruins the whole experience. Like having like bathrooms that don't work, like it's the worst feeling. And same, like we're working on it to put another bathroom in. It's probably going to be like another $40,000. We'll eventually get there. We're putting food. This is probably like $8,000 or $9,000 venture, but we want to add these things because we think it's important. I'm glad you liked all that stuff. I'm glad it like made an impact because
No, it was cool.
We built the bathroom ourselves. So.
Yeah, and I do like the professionalism. Like you walk in, and it's like a place, because you're a musician. Also, when you go to places, like when people walk in, they kind of choose. Do I respect this place? Or not? You know what I'm saying? Like, it shows. If you go to someone's bathroom, you can see if the floor is dirty, people don't care. Like they'll just, and so coming in right away, I knew, okay, there's a standard here, cool, and it's great. It's a great feeling because it brings all the artists. Like we see the stage, we see everything that you talked about earlier. Like, this is gonna be good. It's gonna be great exposure, like a give and take. It's gonna be a good experience, and that's really what everybody wants. Is just a good show.
No, I talked to Angel a lot about that, and we talked about how. Like you need that as an artist who's getting off. You need to feel what it feels like to work with professionals, and like, oh, this is what a crowd could feel like if I had like some production behind me. And so I think it's important. I'm glad you guys see it. It's that's what we wanted. So
yeah, I think you already answered this one, but what were some of the toughest challenges you faced with this venue?
I usually answer like pretty quick on this one because it's just money. When you're a musician, you have to deal with like, I thought about this analogy the other day. I said, if you want to make $1 million, it's kind of like carving a stone statue. And like, if you choose a typical profession, lawyer, doctor, whatever, it's still hard, but you've got like power tools or maybe like high grade chisels. And like when you're doing it as a musician, you have like a blunt spoon. So like technically you can still do it, but the tools that you have are just not the same. Like it's still there, it's just way harder. And so like if we were starting a law firm and we all had law degrees, there's a very like specific path that banks understand, like, oh, I know how much you're probably going to make. I know, what I can lend you reasonably. When you're like, hey, we've got a cover band and we want to start a music venue, they're like, I'm not giving you anything. They're like, it's so hard to get funding. And so like we would do a ton of the work ourselves. We would barter with friends and be like, hey, if you do this for me, I'll play your daughter's quinceañera for free, or like I'll come and DJ your wedding for free. We'll pay you within 6 months. We're like, I know that we're going to make the money back. I'll give us an interest loan on it. So you have to get like super creative. Most of the money was our own, but there were some like finding electricians. They just don't have the time for you. They're either working on huge mega projects, or they've got their own business to run. So it's hard. You're not in the world of development, commercial development, and you're not in the world of finance. I don't have friends that like know how to get finance for commercial projects like this. So you have to figure it out yourself. You have to invent it. You have to get creative, and then once you do it, it gets easier. But nobody taught us how to talk to the bank.
Damn, that's tough, man. Yeah. Just that alone, that already sounds like a big mess. Yeah. But it's good though. You guys are going through the hoops, because this is kind of like a blueprint for everyone else. Yeah. Because you guys are really paving the way.
It's a couple like key resources too that I'll like shout out, because it's not like we did a lot of Googling and ask people, but the Small Business Development Center, there's one off of Monroe. So when we were still like just a cover band, we went to them. They will give you free business counseling. So you sign up with them and you can take classes with them. They'll give you a one-on-one business development specialist who's like, okay, what is it you're trying to do? And they don't care. Like we told them we're a band and we're trying to make money. They helped us write a business plan. And then they were like, all right, when you go to the bank, these are the questions they're going to ask. You need to be able to answer this stuff, and you need to find, like, how do you find an accountant? They're like, I have 3 friends. Go interview with each of them. So SBDC is huge. The Chamber of Commerce can be hugely valuable. So we went and and then we just found people who like they owned similar businesses. My buddy David Bermudez, shout out La Michoacana over in Cathedral City. He just gave us free advice. So we went to people that we knew how to do it. So a lot of it was us figuring it out, but a lot of it was us like, there's resources that are out there. People aren't going to laugh you out. Like you can go to SBDC, you can go to the chamber, you can go to your friends who own businesses and just kind of pick their brain. And that's how we learned what we know. And that's what we also are like, hey, let's pass it on. There is a way to do it. So.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's free game.
It is. It's honestly best time we ever spent was building a business plan with the SBDC. And it really helped us. Like that's why the city took us seriously. Is because we had a business plan. It was legit. Somebody had reviewed it. They had critiqued it and said, take this out, add this in. I need more financial information. Shorten this paragraph. And so when you go in front of people who expect that, you're like, I got this. No, I've been doing this for 3 months. So.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. All right. So stepping aside from the venue and the business side, how do you go about picking the bands that perform here?
Yeah, that's hard, man. So
that sounds tough.
Especially because at the beginning there's so many.
Oh, there's a bunch,
there's like
man.
70, 80 bands in the first like probably week or two. My brother Sam, business partner, musician, but he's the one that's in charge of booking and placement. A huge part of it is, do you have the necessary pieces? So he's sifting through, let's say he's got like 30 people that hit him up just this week. The first thing he's going to go through and see is like, do they have any social media? Do they put the effort in themselves? Do they have anything on YouTube? Do they have any music online that I can listen to? Because if he jumps over to your Spotify, you don't have to have a ton of plays, but if he's like, oh, these guys recorded, this is legit, like these guys sound great, you're already ahead of the pack. If somebody just emails and says, hey, here's they don't have any kind of EPK essentially.
Yeah.
That's kind of tier one. It's just have your basic stuff together. Have a couple of shots of you guys playing somewhere, or a video, even if your friend took it on a camera. Have your social media kind of just show us that you're posting, show that you're putting the effort in, and then referencing, hey, I played at this location, or I'm gonna play at this location. We leak out to these spots, and we'll see. I when we were getting started, I would leak out to Bart. I would go to Angel's spot. Stuff here at the city, backyard shows, and so you get to know people, and then a lot of it after that is just like references upon references. So like, hey, these guys headlined, these guys were the openers killed, you guys want to headline next time. And so there's a little bit of persistence, showing up and just being here.
Yeah.
Some of the people have just walked through the front door and they're like, hey man, I really want to play here. Here's my business card, here's all my information. And when we meet them and we're like, this is a cool person, they're serious about this, they showed up, that kind of tenacity sometimes just puts you at the top of the deck. And I wish it could be fair that we just like, oh, we're just going to work through everybody, but we only have so many weekends that we can run, and we try to choose the people that we see are serious about what they're doing. Yeah. And sometimes it's hard, like you said, like with genres too, sometimes it's just a little easier to put like a couple of bands together because they fit in a genre. And if you have like a solo hip hop artist who doesn't have other acts that they travel with, it's hard to place them. We don't want to put them at the front of a lineup where nobody shows up for them and they're totally different genre. So we're like, do you have anybody else that can play with you? Like, and so building up that network to where you're like, hey, I've got 5 acts. We can cover 3 hours. I know we're going to sell 50 tickets. We're going to bring a crowd. That helps, as opposed to just one person showing up and they're like, hey, I want to debut my EP, and I'm just like, who? Like, dude, we like we need a lineup. I don't know who you play with. So those things are all helpful. We're trying to get better about it though. It's honestly probably an area of weakness for us. We've never run a box office before, so like we get bogged down with like ticketing. Do we have enough staff? It's just like the 4 of us, and we're like, who did we place? Well, let's get somebody that we know is going to be consistent. And so for us, that's the learning curve, is like, how do you develop a really good like music program? How do you stack kind of acts throughout the month and then throughout the year, so that you're getting as many people as possible? How do you discover new people? We're learning it. We're trying to be honest about that. We do want to get more people in here, but that's been tough for us. So
Yeah, man. Actually, the way you said it too was so many weekends.
Yeah.
Like that's tough.
Yeah.
That is tough, kind of putting everybody like squished together.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want like 1,000, you know, like a big huge lineup. You
Yeah.
definitely don't want one of those.
No, that's, we don't want to just be like churning and burning. Well, and then
Yeah.
sometimes we have an available like day, and the band that we want is already playing, and then they're like, well, I'm not available for another 2 months, and I'm like, shoot. So it's, it's tough.
So with aside from locals, are you guys open to like I guess like traveling bands or traveling artists?
That's the long-term goal. So the long-term goal for this venue is our company mission statement is to build the music scene in the Coachella Valley, and part of that is the education that we do, teaching at the schools. We do lessons, but the other piece of that is we realize there's no venues, and in order to build the scene, you got to have venues. So we chose kind of a mid-size. We once we get the sprinklers. I've been saying this for like months. I know people are tired of hearing me say it. We've got sprinklers that are going in starting at the end of June that are going to let us lift the cap from 50 people to probably, don't quote me, but about 200 people is what we're guessing. That's what the city says. And so it's hard. We've had a ton of bands, like indie bands, talk to us about touring out here. But when we tell them like, hey, we've got a 50 cap room, they're like, I need 100, 150. I got to be able to sell and move tickets. And so I want Indio to be like a stop on the tour. If you're on the 10 and you're going from Arizona out to Southern California, you should be stopping here. You should be. I think that it's an easy stop. You're right off of the 10. You just hit Jackson and come straight over here. And so I want those bands. I've been making some solid connections with bands out of LA, San Bernardino, Riverside. What I've been telling them is like, I'd love to have you, but I don't feel like we can give you the experience that I want. That we feel like first impressions matter. And I want you to come when this place is at like full strength, full capacity. We have our stage lighting and all that stuff is done.
It's gonna be lit.
Everything. So yeah,
it's gonna be so lit.
I was like, just give us a couple of months. We've been kind of practicing with the locals, but 100%. I'd love for these outside headliners. Just hit us up. We'll get them in there. So.
Oh yeah, dude, I could see it.
Yeah.
I could definitely see it because I think this place for sure has like the. Like, man, can you imagine like 300 people in here?
Yeah, I can see it. We've had, there have been events where we're like, oh, you can see where the energy's good. Like you get 150, 200 people in here, and you realize like, oh, this is cool. This is what people want. They want something that's unique and fun and close to their home, and they don't have to travel, like to LA for this.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But with the so for those who don't know, what are the type of shows that you guys already had here?
Yeah, so we've done a pretty big variety. We've worked with Hot Stuff Booking and done some like hardcore and punk shows. And then Hot Stuff Sage over at Hot Stuff has also done some like more laid back art and acoustic shows. So that's been fun. We kind of mixed it up. We've done like a lot of local bands. It's been great. Like shout out a couple of like the Divines, Tourists, Lazuli Bones, TV Screams, like just a really good community of people. There's many more that I'm sure I'm missing, but like a lot of indie stuff, a lot of alternative stuff. It's pretty easy to put those together. We've done some singer-songwriter nights. We have one this Friday with Ronnie Carrier and some other locals. We've done some open mic stuff. We started doing comedy stuff. So like the comedy's really hitting actually. So we've been really happy with that. As soon as we get this cap raised, like we have some decent sized comedy acts that are going to be coming out of LA. That I'm surprised. I was like, oh, I've seen this guy on YouTube. Like that's super cool. So we're going to have more comedy is going to be stacked up. And then in addition, we talked about, we've had a couple of like 1 or 2 hip hop shows, but I would love to throw showcases. We've done like dance ciphers with CV Cypher, Josh and those guys. So yeah, like we're kind of just, throwing stuff at the wall here and seeing what hits, seeing how we can improve. The goal is to get a good mix that's kind of reflective of the community, and also starting to add some stuff like my buddy Ivan Ivantre, he did like a 60s, like 60s, 70s classic soul and R&B plus like 90s R&B thing for Christmas. And so like
Oh yeah, I know him. He's great.
So Ivan's gonna we'll have him back every year for like the Christmas special. We have some guys that are gonna do some jazz stuff. We have big band like on Sundays. They want to do like big band brunch. So like you'll have like big jazz group come out here and we'll do like I don't know, mimosas or something like that on a Sunday. So
Dude,
yeah,
awesome.
we got some ideas.
Sick. So with these shows, right? Is there an age cap?
Yeah, it depends on the show. So the venue doesn't have an age cap.
Okay.
So the venue has a license for beer and seltzer. It's I think the Type 40 license. It allows you to stay all ages, and that was like a big sticking point for us. Was that the venues, like regardless of what happens, we want the venue to be all ages, because it's so important when you're like 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
You got to have a place to play. Otherwise, you just you kind of like lose interest, or you get discouraged and end up playing in backyards or whatever. So. Even if we upgrade the liquor license, the goal is always to make sure that the space is all ages. There are certain shows that we do keep 18 plus or 21 plus, usually when the promoter or the producer asks, and there's a specific reason. Maybe they're like, hey, we want explicit music without kind of any of the edits. It just adds a different vibe. So occasionally we'll say, yeah, you know what, this is an art show. We don't want young kids because they'll grab art or pick stuff up. Or hey, the DJs want to be able to play whatever they want without having to worry about families. And so we'll warn people ahead, like recommended 18 plus or recommended 16 plus or whatever. But for the most part, we try to keep most of our programming all ages. So.
Nice. Yeah, because at first I was wondering if there was like an age gap or anything, because that is a good point, because coming up, I couldn't really perform anywhere, kind of like how you said.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's actually a good idea right there.
Yeah.
Dang. Have you guys had younger bands come in here?
Yeah. So
I think the Divines, right?
The Divines have played here. There's right next to us is the Academy of Music Performance.
Oh, yeah,
a couple of their groups have played. Whitewater has been out here. Those are all super young guys too. Those guys are phenomenal. And I found out that we were laughing because we had to cut a check to the Divines. And we're like, do any of you guys have a bank account? Am I allowed to enter into a contract with like a minor? Like, we're like, this is funny. Because, when they get that young, you're like, oh, shoot, do I make this out to your parents? Like, what do I do here? So, no, they're great. So.
Dang. That is crazy. But, that's cool, though, that you guys cut checks to your performers, because, most venues, it's pretty much like, perform for free.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good change.
Dude,
for sure.
It's like we've played most of the venues that you hear about people playing in LA are like the pay-to-play model. And so like the Whiskey A Go Go, the Viper Room, the Mint, all these places you're typically like charged an upfront fee, usually in like the $500 to $1,000 range, and you have to sell a minimum number of tickets. And so we did that. Like we went to go play like Chain Reaction, and they're like, cool, here's 50 tickets, or they give you 60 tickets. And they're like, we suggest that you sell 50 for $10, and that'll pay us back our 500. And then whatever you sell the other 10 or 15 or 20 tickets for, you get to keep that. And then you quickly realize, I can't even bring 60 people to my hometown show. Like, there's no way that I'm going to get them out to LA.
Yeah.
And so you end up in the hole. So it's hard, man. The economics of it are hard because there's a lot of shows where like, it'll just be a wash for us. We're like, cool, like we paid the bands, we paid the sound guy, we paid the guy at the door, we paid the baristas, we paid the light bill, we paid the insurance company, and you're like, we didn't go broke, but we also you don't make anything off of it. So for us, for right now, it's still the passion project part. We want to make sure that people get paid, and that that's important to us, and that's why we're adding like, hey, that's why you pay your door fees, that's why you pay your cover, that's why you buy beer from us instead of trying to sneak in alcohol from outside. Like, it's not just about us, it's about we're trying to support the local community. When you bring your beers from outside and sneak it in your bag, like that's money that doesn't go to the local musicians. So no, it's the economics can be tough when you have to pay everybody out, but it's important for us to pay the musicians. We don't want to be again setting the example. There shouldn't be a model where you walk away losing money from bringing 50 people to somebody's business.
Sheesh, man. Yeah, actually, just thinking about it, I'm like, man, yeah, that's all kinds of different expenses just to throw a show.
Dude, it's when people are like, why can't we stage dive? I'm like, do you know what my insurance broker would tell me if I said stage diving is cool? I'm like, it's just anything. I read horror stories in the paper about like hardcore show or a punk show, somebody stage dives and like lands on and breaks their neck, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
like that's my biggest fear. And so you're paying insurance, you're paying lighting, you're paying air conditioning. I pay the guy at the door. I pay I pay to have a sound guy. We pay the baristas that are coming in. You got to pay for just all this stuff, equipment. Somebody breaks a mic, somebody breaks they don't realize, hey, cool, we spent $300 repairing the speakers that you jumped off of because the grills got all bent in, or like you threw the microphone on the floor and it busted, and like we just eat that cost. And so it's tough to put on a show, but there is a way, there's a path out there where everybody gets paid, everybody makes money, and that's we're working towards that. And there's some shows that crush it, and then other shows that we're like, all right, we'll tweak that model a little bit. We'll have to change what we do here.
Yeah. Dang. I mean, just seeing like the journey that I went through, how you said like the pay to play.
Yeah.
Man, so you were saying 500?
Easy. Yeah. So I think that was a start. That was in 2017, 2016. So that was before Sean. So yeah, it was 2016 or 2017. It was about $500 per group that was there, and there were like 10 groups there. They would just line us up. You get a 30-minute block.
I get you.
We would probably get like 20 friends to show up. So maybe we're out $300, but then you have to travel to LA. So you're spending gas. If you're not renting a hotel, then you're buying a bunch of food while you're there, because you're like, all right, it's an all-day thing. So like, well, we burned another $200 in food and gas between 2 or 3 vehicles of caravanning over there. So you're back up to $500. And then maybe you sell some t-shirts to some people that show up, but you got to pay for the t-shirts. So like, cool, I dropped 500, I made it back, but now it's just a wash, because I haven't sold them all yet. The extra smalls are still, whatever. And so yeah, that was 7-8 years ago. It was $500, and I don't even think that was a weekend gig. I think that was like a middle of the week thing, and everybody does it. House of Blues, Chain Reaction, the Mint, the Whiskey. That's the model in LA, and
I get you.
Yeah, people keep paying it, but I'm sure it's more now in some places.
So I guess it is like, I mean, maybe it's a little easier because there's more than one person in the band.
Yeah.
But I've had I've had places where I try to perform in Arizona, and they hit me with the out of town fee. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them, they call it that, like the out of town fee. And I'm like, bro, what about the hotel? Like that's my out of town fee, like the gas and all that. And I'm just like, it's all good. Because then usually they'll have you open up for their local guy.
Yeah.
And you already know like the stage is not gonna be crazy. It's not gonna a lot of people, and like the humble pie gets served really quick when you get the tickets, like how you said, and you got to sell X amount just so you can make money, and then you realize like, damn, bro, like this is not easy. No, and I'm starting to see it from the outside, seeing what you're talking about, explaining how much of like independent is and how much it actually it is.
Yeah. No, I think it's tough because I'm on both sides of it. Like I still gig and I'm still a touring musician, so I'm like, hey, I need you guys to pay me. We're not going to show up for nothing. Yeah. But then you're on the flip side and you're like, shoot, I mean, you pay a band, I mean, nominal, like nothing crazy, like $500 to come through. And you're like, okay, I got to move like 125 beers like to get that back after. That's just to break even. And so you figure the space has 50 people in it. And you're like, everybody's got to be drinking 2 beers at least. And when you got, a family of 4 and 3 of them are kids or whatever, you're like, there's 3 people not drinking beer. You hope that they're drinking coffee. And so, for us, it's part of that is tickets. Part of that is like gaining the trust of the community. The goal long term is that they just eventually trust that whoever we put in here is going to be a good show. So you're not 100% relying on the people to do the work themselves. They're just, it's a philosophy of like, it's not the job of the musician to bring you the people or the foot traffic. You as a venue, and I tell people this, have to be enough of a draw already that the music is just, it's an added feature. It's like, it's a special thing that you have. Otherwise, you are going to just be at odds with the musicians. Like if you can't stand on your own 2 feet without the musicians or without paying them, then it is really tough. And so a lot of venues, they got to figure like, oh, if you're that heavily reliant on the musicians to bring people through the door, get ready to pay. Otherwise, you got to figure out a way to get them through here without the music. So,
Man. Well, before we wrap up, do you
Yeah,
have any additional thoughts?
I think this is cool. This is probably, you asked what my favorite thing about, owning a venue is. It would be that, I get to do something that's unique and just kind of think it and then put it into place. One of my other favorite things, though, is like the connection that you have with the community. I worked behind a desk for a long time, and you kind of have some, connection to the community, but
Yeah.
it's not the same. And so it's really cool that like people reach out, they take interest, and then realizing like, oh, you've been here for 20 years, I've been here for 20 years, like we both want to make this thing great. It's always super encouraging. Like we'll sit here some days and we like look at the register and we're like, nobody cares about this place. And then you have like people come through and they're like, oh no, like I'm so happy with what you guys are doing to downtown. And it's like, it's really just invigorating to have people walk through the door, come and support. And so I tell people, if you value live music in your city, if you value, local artists and musicians, the best thing that you can do is directly support them. Buy their merch, go to their shows, here, wherever. Like if you have a vibrant downtown scene, the shows will keep coming. And so it's so great to see the block like thriving, but the best thing that you can do is somebody who is not in the scene, or somebody who doesn't play music, or somebody who doesn't own a venue, or just wanting to grow the scene, show up, spend your money at all the businesses that are hiring these musicians and giving them a chance. Because if those musicians come through, it's great. It's great to see like, hey, they brought a crowd. The crowd loved it. They got them pumped. Let's get them back over here. And it's encouraging to both parties. The musicians feel like, hey, I've got a following. This is something that I can do that I'm passionate about. And us as a business, we're going to bring them back. And I think the same is probably going to be said of all the other people on the street. If you want to see the music, show up, pay for the tickets, buy the beer, eat the food, buy the shirts, and it'll keep happening. It'll keep growing. So,
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
A venue owned by musicians for musicians.
Yeah, that's
Dude, thank you for sitting down with me, man. It's
Yeah.
been great. Thank you for the tour.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
No, absolutely.
And yeah.
Hey, thank you guys. We appreciate it. I'm sure we'll do another one of these after the renovation. You
Yeah.
guys can come back and
We'll
see the new
definitely do like
lighting
an update
and-
too.
Yeah. We'll do an update. Give us like 6 months. So
Awesome, bro.
cool, man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man.
You're listening to the GreenSkull podcast.
A podcast for Fife fans, music artists, and creatives alike.